Yeah, yeah, ay. I'm part of the next generation. Yeah, ay. We the next generation. Told my family that we gotta be patient. We are on when you flipping your station. We the next generation.
Peace, family. This your brother Seneb. I'm gonna come at you again today with another bill in my I Got a Story to Tell series. This is episode 2, and I'm gonna be building today about Edisto Island, or better known as Negro Paradise. Edisto Island was the location of a number of minor engagements and, for a time, a large colony of African Americans and escaped former slaves during the American Civil War. Edisto was largely abandoned by planters in November and December of 1861. Escaped slaves began setting up their own refugee camps there. In January 1862, armed African Americans from the island and Confederate forces clashed in a Confederate raid, and in reprisal killed a small number of unarmed African Americans. Thomas Sherman sent a small regiment of soldiers, the 47th New York Infantry, to North Edisto Island on February 12th. The soldiers would protect the colony and establish a camp. Regimental Colonel Henry Moore established headquarters at Point of Palms, which became the headquarters of all Union troops on the island. William T. Sherman issued his Special Field Order No. 15, which confiscated as Union property a strip of coastline stretched from Charleston, South Carolina, to the St. Johns River in Florida, including Georgia Sea Islands and mainland 30 miles in from the coast. The order redistributed the roughly 400,000 acres of land to newly freed black families in 40-acre settlements. It served as a means of providing for the thousands of black refugees who had been following his army since his invasion of Georgia. He could not afford to support or protect those refugees while on campaign. The order explicitly called for the settlement of black families on confiscated land, encouraged freedmen to join the Union Army to help sustain their newly won liberty, and designated a general officer to act as inspector of settlements. Inspector General Rufus Saxton would police the land and work to ensure legal title of property for black settlers. In a later order, Sherman also authorized the Army to loan mules to the newly settled farmers. And this is possibly where the 40 acres and a mule promise comes from. And we know the 40 acres and a mule is what some use in their reparations cases with the government. Under his supervision, many former refugees returned to Edisto. In 1865, the Freedmen's Bureau was supervising the colony of Edisto. Former plantations such as William Seabrook Plantation were used as camps, and Crawford's Plantation House, owned by Confederate officer William J. Whaley, was used to house Freedmen Bureau teachers Mary Ames and Emily Bliss. But the order was short-lived promise for blacks. Despite the objections of General Oliver Howard, the Freedmen's Bureau chief, the U.S. President Andrew Johnson overturned Sherman's directive in the fall of 1865, after the war had ended, and returned most of the land along the South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida coast to the planters who had originally owned it. The Freedmen's Bill that passed in July of 1866 provided many additional rights to the ex-slaves, including the redistribution of land, schools for their children, and military courts to ensure these rights. The Freedmen's Bureau's Act gave ex-slaves any of the civil rights or immunities belonging to white persons, including the right to inherit, purchase, lease, sell, hold, and convey real and personal property, and to have full and equal benefit of all laws and proceedings for the security of the persons and estate, including the constitutional right of bearing arms. This bill passed both House and Senate, and they overrode the president's veto. This was in response to Southern Black codes and the KKK and other groups who were taking guns away from freedmen. Under President Johnson, the Freedmen's Bureau made several attempts to pass measures, some of which President Johnson vetoed. The Freedmen's Bureau Bill of 1866 is an example. Here, family, you can see some of the reasons why President Johnson at the time decided to veto these Freedmen's Bureau bills. I mean, it boils down to he was a racist. He didn't want to see the black family at the time, get their feet underneath them. They were making a lot of strides. Some of the ex-slaves and freedmen at the time was already planting crops. They was establishing governments. And also, we have to understand, this is during the war, Civil War. So there was no representation for these states in the Senate, in Congress. So Johnson used that as an excuse to say, hey, we can't force this way of life on the white people that's already down in these, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida areas. So that's why he began to veto. He he thought that may swing and make a lot of the Democrats at the time side for him, because he was already seen as an incompetent president, more or less being a racist one. After the president's order, free blacks that occupied the land petitioned for the right to stay, which Johnson disapproved. The land was sold to Benjamin Montgomery by Joseph Davis, Jefferson Davis' brother. Now, for the family, Jefferson Davis was the president of the Confederate States at the time. After Joseph Davis' death, Benjamin entered legal battles with Jefferson Davis for the rights to the land. Davis won the land in court, evicting the Montgomery family, finally destroying the Negro paradise the newly emancipated free blacks hoped for. At the bottom right-hand screen, family, that's Benjamin T. Montgomery. And I also want to highlight that Joseph Davis's children were assisting Benjamin Montgomery in his legal battles with Jefferson Davis and his descendants. Here are some of the references and sources I use for the bill, family. I appreciate you stopping by to another edition of I Got a Story to Tell. This is episode 2, Edisto Island. I'll be coming at you again next week with another bill. Peace to the fam.